here's one I've got to say this. So that I was looking for people to follow on Instagram that just to broaden my horizons, and I found this woman last night. She's a young woman, and she's for a minute there I thought that I didn't like her. I didn't. It took me a couple. I had to follow her for a minute and listen through to realize that the first one that I listened to was sarcasm. But there's she's it's either an RN or a doctor that she's talking to from a hospital. This is in Texas, and the mother goes in at 15 weeks and has an ultrasound done, and the child doesn't have a head. Okay, and the mother's having some medical issues, and they tell her they give her an antidepressant and send her home saying that they will not abort the fetus, and the fetus doesn't have a head. And the girl's 21 years old, so she has to go to New Mexico and pay for this out of pocket. They end up staying at like a Motel 6 because that's all they could afford. And they basically, she spends the night after the procedure at the Motel 6. They get up and drive from New Mexico back, and she's got a fever. Her fluids are horrible. And I mean, it's like she pretty much puts her life in risk because of this Texas ruling. And she said that the girl should have went um, to Colorado, and she named another state, but she was saying that never what the problem was that this girl went to a Catholic hospital in New Mexico, so she went to a religious hospital on top of that, and she said that they would have like Medicare would have taken care of it, and I think she was in Colorado, and it was just like, and then there was several of these in a row where one was missing limbs and all this other thing. They made her go term, and the child lived 4 hours. The other was they were having difficulties. The child was stillborn. It was like one horrific thing after another, just so um, Texas could, abide by their no abortion.
No, and you're gonna get shit like this now. I mean, this is the
And it is, and every one of the mothers was their health was put at severe risk.
yeah. I know. This is going to be an unfortunate outgrowth of this.
And my whole thing is, there's never been a child that has lived any younger than 21 weeks. I think it's 21 weeks, 5 days is the youngest child ever born. So it's 17 weeks. The child's not going to live,
Right.
and it's
It's on the reality for now. For now, these things
we
are
just
all.
got to make sure that I mean that
Hmm.
there will be a. Uh, but this is the thing that another thing that really that God forbid for anybody that doesn't want to hear a political view or a pro-choice view, please go in the other room and practice a spinning screwdriver on your wife.
Bomb.
Um,
Screwdriver bomb. That is.
screwdriver bomb. Um, I want to think it's Oklahoma. But it's one of these states that's having like uh, a special vote on the abortion amendment, in the state, and it's either Nebraska, Oklahoma, it's one of these, but it's they're trying to make it a 60-40 pass.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what when we got medical marijuana in Florida, we had to get 61% of the vote down here. Like what the fuck is that? Come on.
Yeah, I don't know how they arrive at these
Well, because
super
they're in
majorities.
charge. They're in
Super majority.
charge.
Right.
The
Right.
Republicans are in charge, and they set up their super majority, and it's just like it, if you're so certain that that you want to let the people speak, then let the people speak. Let the people speak on everything. Let the people, you know,
I think everything should be on a ballot.
and to me, I have never been in 64 years on this planet. I have never been more appalled and just, flabbergasted at the Supreme Court of the United States of America. And it's a 6-3, and these people are just, I mean, affirmative action is gone.
Well, the thing with the Supreme Court is, and this having nothing to do with their decisions yet, but something we covered where there's no governance over the Supreme Court, something that I was just never aware of until we started to have the discussions this year about Clarence Thomas and all this stuff. Because judges and courts in the lower courts are heavily regulated and heavily overseen
Right.
by agencies above. And it would make sense, right, that your highest court in the land, but to keep the powers of checks and balances in place, you'd have to have total independence. Now, what that didn't take into account is that people will try to game every system possible, and I have a hard time accepting that these decisions come from the rule of law when they're made and they're not politically driven. I think it's a stretch for everyone to believe the grammar school fantasy that the three bodies of government function independent and autonomously and for the good of all.
Yeah. And it's just we've gotten to the point where there has to be term limits on everything. If the president of the United States can only do 8 years, then Senate's 8 years, House is 8 years, and the Supreme Court, let's give them 12. Let's give them 12 because they were lifetime. But you can't have somebody that's
The
you know
argument against that, though, was always that it would the deck would be stacked in favor of whatever party was in when that mass retirement or end of term would happen, and you can almost predict.
well, you would do it the same way you do it right now. It wouldn't be you couldn't blanket it. It's just like you know where it's staggered, where at midterm, you would lose half. But right now, it's a 6-3. Um, like everything that's being voted on is either 6-3 or 7-2, and it's all six of the justices that were put in by Republican presidents are it's
What if it wasn't appointees? Would that be an easier? Maybe if it wasn't appointees that they had to be elected.
well, it's gotten to the point for me, where when I was younger and you would go in and you would vote, I really didn't do a whole lot of background checks on judges, uh, you know, And then as you get older, and you realize that like one thing, one of the one of the biggest mistakes that I think Obama did was he just really left a lot of the judges, the federal judge spots vacant, and Trump went in and filled them. And
Oh, yeah.
you look now that it's like every judge that you look up is a Federalist. You know, so but I mean, it's just like you have to do homework on every. It's like you're given a vote, and you just if you know you walk if you I've said it a billion times. I didn't want to vote for Hillary Clinton, but I knew that voting for Trump because I didn't know what I mean. I had no idea what Trump would. I was like everybody else. Like maybe it's time to get somebody that's not a politician. And then he was so nasty during the debates. I was like, nah, this doesn't seem like this is going to be something that's going to be good for the country.
Hmm.
And then, but knowing that he was a Republican and knowing that they were going to get two, possibly three seats during his term, it ended up being three.
Hmm.
And that's a game changer right now. So
Sure is. Sure is. A smart play by them to look at circuit judges and
absolutely,
all over the country and fill that. I mean, I saw
no,
that
I
happening, and I said, very interesting.
yeah, and I mean it's
Someone smarter than Trump obviously advised him to do that. People that were around him. Um, you know what's smart though?